So over the past 5 years, over 2/3 of drug approvals have been for specialty medications. And just this year alone, we've already had 28 novel specialty drugs approved. Of those, 16 are for cancer. And of those cancer drugs, 10 are oral. So they're going to be impacting the pharmacy benefit. We're actually even seeing some competition among some of these oral therapies for cancer. We had Retevmo approved. This is an oral RET inhibitor for patients with RET positive non-small cell lung cancer, and also some patients with RET positive thyroid cancer. That was approved in May. And then Gavreto, another RET inhibitor, was approved for non-small cell lung cancer in September. It's going to get an expanded thyroid cancer indication in February. But again, these very rare cancer types where there's similar mechanisms, other options available. Although, unfortunately, it's not bringing down the price of these drugs. They cost about $240,000 per year, those two medications. But you also see focus on really, again, niche cancer types. So another example is Pemazer. So this is a new drug to treat patients with cholangiocarcinoma or bile duct cancer that only affects about 8,000 patients per year in the US. And this is specifically for patients that have FGFR2 mutations, which is only a subset of those patients. About 9 to 14% have those mutations. So this is a new drug available for those patients. It costs about $300,000 per year. There is a pharmacogenetic test available to identify the appropriate patients for therapy. Also, there's a big focus on orphan medication development. So of the 28 specialty drugs approved so far this year, 20 are orphan drugs. And just one I wanted to highlight is Evrysdi. This is a new medication for patients with spinal muscular atrophy, and it's an oral medication. So this could compete with Spinraza, which is an intrathecal medication. So we could see some of the shift from the medical to the pharmacy benefit for these patients. There's also Zolgensma available. That's a gene therapy. It's a one-time infusion that costs $2.1 million. So that's another player in this space as well. So the majority of spend, or actually development for specialty pipeline, is again orphan drugs and cancer medications. When you look at orphans, some areas to watch for are Duchenne muscular dystrophy. We actually could see a gene therapy approved at the end of next year for Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and it could be used in all patients potentially. So right now we just have those available for patients that have certain mutations. So that's one to watch for. We also have a lot of hemophilia, so watch for that as well. Probably 2022 will be the first time we see that approved, but those are going to be between $2 to $3 million for a one-time infusion. Very expensive, but they also have the potential to minimize the need of those infused factors, which can be very expensive as well. Cancer is another area, again, of a lot of development. We've had potentially we're going to have 21 cancer drugs approved just this year alone. We have 2 more CAR T therapies that are pending approval at FDA. So we have idacaptogene. This is going to be approved next month for patients with large B-cell lymphoma. And then there's another one called, actually the lisocabtagene is for large B-cell lymphoma, and then we're going to have idacaptogene for patients with multiple myeloma. So this will be the first CAR T for patients with multiple myeloma. Another area where there's a lot of activity is atopic dermatitis, and there are specialty drugs that are going to be approved for patients with moderate to severe atopic dermatitis or eczema. So right now we have Dupixent on the market. This is a biologic. It's a sub-Q injection every 2 weeks, and it really dominates that market. But now we're going to have several oral JAK inhibitors approved in 2021 for moderate to severe atopic dermatitis. Now, I think because of the safety concerns with this class, they may be used after Dupixent, but we could see abrocitinib approved in April, Rinvoq could get an expanded indication in June, and then Olumiant could also be approved next year. So watch that space. And there's actually a novel drug in development for moderate to severe atopic dermatitis as well. It's called tralokinumab. And this is an interleukin-13 inhibitor. So it's a biologic drug, sub-Q injection every 2 weeks, similar to Dupixent, to watch for as well. And then another one we're watching is aducanumab. So this could be approved for patients with Alzheimer's disease. And this would be the first disease-modifying drug for Alzheimer's disease. So we're really watching this closely. It's an IV infusion that's given every 4 weeks. And there was 2 pivotal trials evaluating this medication. Those were previously stopped because it didn't look like they were going to reach the primary endpoints. But then they did another analysis of one of these trials, and they found that patients who are on it long-term at the high dose may have some benefit. So an advisory panel is actually going to be discussing this product November 6th. So it'll be really interesting to hear what they have to say. Right now, analysts are all over the place, whether they think it's going to be approved. Right now, I think estimates are around 30 to 50% chance of approval, but it'll be very interesting to hear what the ad board has to say. If it's positive, this could be approved before its March 7th action date. According to Express Scripts 2019 drug trend report data, 48% of spend under the pharmacy benefit is for specialty medications. We're expecting that by 2020, so this year, once we do the data at the end of the year, we're expecting that that's going to overtake, specialty drug spend is going to overtake traditional drug spend under the pharmacy benefit. But it's important to realize that only 3% of patients take specialty medications. But of course, they're very expensive, costing over $3,000 per month on average. So the healthcare industry is, has to deal with this issue of paying for these very expensive medications. And so that's why it's important for the managed care industry to ensure that patients with these devastating conditions have access to medications that can help prolong or improve their lives significantly. And then we also have to make sure that we manage the spend on these medications as well, so as not to overwhelm the healthcare system. And there are a lot of tools available. Obviously, the first important responsibilities to the patients. So you want to make sure you have highly trained pharmacists and nurses working through specialty pharmacies to make sure patients understand their medications. They can help monitor for side effects. They can minimize waste. And then there's also just managed spend tools available, like formulary management, step therapies, prior authorizations. And then there's new tools available for patients. Like now we have Evernorth's Embark program, and that helps to provide access to these expensive gene therapies as well. So I just think continued innovation is going to be really important to maintaining this balance of access and affordability.